So who are the jinn? Explain this to somebody who's never heard this before, because this is a completely new topic for most people in this kind of field of work.
Most people in the West have never heard of the jinn. And that's understandable. They really didn't enter our paranormal lexicon, but they are major players in the field of our paranormal experiences and our ET abduction experiences. The jinn originate in Middle Eastern lore. That doesn't make them Middle Eastern any more than all fairies are Celtic. Entities really don't pay any attention to human boundaries of race, culture, ethnicity, political boundaries, and country boundaries. They're everywhere, but nonetheless, the stories of them and their mythologies do concentrate in certain areas. The jinn go back to ancient times in Persia and Babylonia, ancient Arabia. They are a supernatural race, very powerful, who existed on this planet before we did. They preceded humans. They were around when the angels were around. And according to their creation story, the angels were made of pure spiritual light, the jinn of smokeless fire, and then God decided to make human beings out of earth and water. When he did so, according to their Middle Eastern creation story, when God created human beings, he asked the angels to bow down in acknowledgement, and the angels did so because they follow the will of God. The jinn refused, claiming that human beings were inferior to them and they were not about to bow before anything lower than themselves. This made God angry, and he cursed the jinn and cast them out of this world. He then gave them a bit of a reprieve until Judgment Day to make their case against human beings that we are unworthy. So the jinn have until Judgment Day to prove their case, and they are attempting to do so by tormenting us, creating chaos and upset, becoming involved in a lot of our paranormal encounters. And one of the things that they do is shapeshift into a variety of guises to keep us confused about what they are doing. There is a faction of the jinn that has the agenda to reclaim the earth. We find this same agenda in the abducting ETs. I got interested in the jinn in the 1980s when I was researching Solomonic magic, that is, magic attributed to the legendary King Solomon, who now the evidence points to was indeed a historical figure.
What is that? Explain what that type of magic is again.
Solomonic magic.
Yeah.
Solomonic,
as opposed to any other kind of magic.
Solomonic magic is attributed to the legendary King Solomon, the second king of Israel. He was the son of David. He is in the Bible. You won't find any references to the jinn in the Bible, but there is the story of how King Solomon got the throne. When he became king, God asked him what he would like, and instead of asking for power and glory like a lot of rulers might, he asked for wisdom, for discernment. This pleased God, and so God granted him the ability to command the spirits. He did so with the help of a magical ring, and he was given great magical knowledge. Now, one of the things that Solomon wanted to do was build a huge temple in Jerusalem, and this was to house the Ark of the Covenant, a mysterious box from which the voice and presence of God emanated and was guarded by high-level angels called cherubim. This required a lot of labor, and in ancient times, when you needed a lot of labor, you had slaves do it. Well, Solomon did not enslave people. According to the Testament of Solomon, a text outside of the canonical literature, he enslaved the jinn. He used his magical abilities to command the jinn and come and cut marble and construct the temples. The jinn were very resentful of this, and they were enslaved for the remainder of Solomon's life. Well, jinn really disappear from our paranormal knowledge except through the magical traditions, because the wisdom that was attributed to King Solomon became incorporated into magical texts called grimoires, and these are books for conjuring spirits. In the translations into English, these entities are called spirits or angels or demons, rarely jinn, which is what they were originally intended for. Otherwise, the only way we know about the jinn is through fairy tales, the Arabian Nights, the genie in the bottle, and in fact that's where the term genie comes from, jinn, a name which means the hidden ones. And so in these fanciful portrayals of odd-looking entities who float out of lamps and bottles and clouds of smoke and have to grant wishes, we've come to regard them as imaginary entities, kind of silly not to be taken seriously, when in fact the jinn are actually quite powerful entities. They can shapeshift into any form. They live for thousands of years. They have families like we do and a social structure. They're like us in many ways. They're good, they're bad, they're indifferent, they come in different moral stripes. But there is a faction of them that's very resentful that the jinn lost their original homeland to us, and they want it back, and they're trying to take it back through guerrilla paranormal warfare. They do not have forms that enable them to stay very long in this dimension, so their abilities to interact with us and to keep us off balance have certain restrictions. One of the ways that they're seeking to get around this is by interbreeding with us and creating hybrids. The hybrids would have the powers of the jinn and the appearance of humans so that they could pass easily on this world. And
how can they mate with human beings which are physical, yet they don't even have a physical form? Or explain how that mechanism happens.
Okay. The jinn have a long tradition of being able to interbreed with humans. As master shapeshifters, they seem to have the ability to take physical form for short periods of time. The stories go back to ancient times of their abilities to be lovers of humans, that they can take the appearance of beautiful men and women and have visitations at night. The visitations that we often ascribe to entities like the incubus and the succubus, or to extraterrestrials, are also jinn. People feel physical contact. They feel real sexual experiences. We find the same in fairy lore.
What are those particular categories you just mentioned?
What are the what?
The succubus and so forth. And what's roughly the difference?
The incubus and the succubus are terms for demonic entities who have sexual intercourse with human beings. The incubus is a male demon that preys upon women, and the succubus is a female-shaped demon who preys upon men. I think that a lot of these experiences that we have, that we attribute to other entities, are in fact jinn. The jinn hiding in plain sight behind the disguises of various kinds of entities.